The summer after my sophomore year of college, I lucked into a summer job that changed my path in science, and I was all the better for it. I hadn't been meaning to take a science job. I was just kind of bored and broke. I had a couple bad habits that summer. One of them was Subway, the sandwiches. Sweet onion chicken teriyaki sandwiches. Another bad habit was oatmeal. That's a different story for another time. Don't ask me later tonight, please. So I needed some money and was just looking around at campus jobs, seeing what was open to me. I'd given up on a lot of the listings and was doing some soul searching. I was a cognitive science major, which is not a common career path. My high school guidance counselor had not recommended that I go into cognitive science, focusing in linguistics. It just, again, the sort of thing I fell into, the story of my life, honestly. And so I was looking around that summer and looking for professors to basically cold call over email and say, do you have any work I could do? I have no marketable skills, please employ me. And I found a professor on my department's website. She wasn't active in the department, she was on another campus, and I saw her listing. Her name is Dana, and she's interested in speech perception and the brain. And I thought, I could get down with that, sure. Speech perception, that's like sound. I'm listening to some very weird music these days. I'm active in the campus theater group on their soundboard. That's the same thing as speech perception. The brain, I've got one of those. They're pretty cool. I'm not going to think too hard about what the brain is. I just need some money. So I emailed Dana, and I didn't hear from her, which was standard for my life that week. 2 days later, though, she emailed me back and said, hey, Neil, sorry I didn't get to reply earlier. I was giving birth that day to my first child. I'll be back in the lab next week if you'd like to meet now. I'll always take the meeting. So I went over and we sat down, and there was a little more confusion than I would have anticipated. Dana said to me, were you applying for the full-time position that we have posted? No, I just need like 20 hours a week to fuel my sandwich habit. Oh, all right. Well, you're hired for 20 hours a week then. And that's how I became working in data entry in an epilepsy clinic. So Dana's lab combined audiology with cognitive neuroscience, and specifically they work with patients with epilepsy and how do their brains organize and process language before, during, and after surgeries to correct the seizures that they're having that are hundreds of seizures a day. These don't respond to medication. These are life-destroying seizures. But this department was excellent at fixing this through surgery. And so I said, sure, I'm happy to be part of this. What work do you need done? So I learned a lot about Microsoft Excel that summer because I was digitizing pencil and paper records from a lot of their patient testing. Dana added a little twist though. She said, you should learn where this data comes from. So your first day, we'll show you a WADA test. I kind of knew what that was. Is anybody here familiar with the WADA test in neurology? No? Slight hand raise, I appreciate that. So the WADA test is the result of neuroscientists not really agreeing as much as you might like on where various everyday functions take place in your brain. Just pause on that one for a second. So the WADA test, you have a patient with epilepsy generally, and the best that these neurologists can do is put a hemisphere of the brain to sleep at a time with some anesthesia, and test them on the awake hemisphere and see what that can take care of. Can they understand words? Can they remember strings of numbers? And you put half the brain to sleep for 20 minutes at a go, and then you switch up the brain halves, and Bob's your uncle, right? Well, what this looks like in practice is, on my first day on my job, standing in scrubs and a gown in the corner of an operating room in East Baltimore, And there's a patient on the table who is quasi-conscious because, as I've mentioned, half of their brain is anesthetized. Add to it that they have like 1980s style printer cables coming out of their open skull. If you've had a first day on the job like that, I will buy you a beer after this show. And that's how I learned where my data came from. A couple months later, Dana called me into her office and said, I have some other testing I'd like to show you. We have a special patient coming in. I said, sure, I'm up for anything, of course. She said, so we have this guy Jack coming in. He's 11, and I'll lead you through the test that we're going to give him, and you'll have a sense of what we're up to with patients like him. Jack, 11 years old, was not a candidate for surgery. He'd already had it years before, when he was about 7 years old. This is a kid who has had half of his brain removed when he's in first grade. So Dana ran me through the tests, and sure enough, despite all the Subway sandwiches, I was able to recite phone numbers backwards and understand different words, etc. Jack came in, and he looked and sounded like a healthy, normal 11-year-old. I, however, reached out to shake his hand, and he didn't quite go for it. And then I remembered, oh right, the left hemisphere of his brain, which controls the right hand that you normally shake with, isn't there. Not everything's back up to 100%. So I felt a little foolish and pretty awkward about it. But he went through those tests like a champ. He was blowing through those, and he wasn't perfect, because he was also an 11-year-old kid. I thought, that's pretty cool. His brain has taken over and reorganized what it needs to, forged new pathways. Neuroplasticity is this amazing property that we have. And he gets to really, really enjoy it. I asked him, hey Jack, what do you do in your spare time? I like to go swimming with my friends. I didn't know how to swim at the age of 20, and I have a whole brain. And that one checked me. Afterwards, Dana and I were debriefing, and she said, so what do you think? And I thought, I was fascinated by all of it. And she said, in a couple of years, he'll be driving. He has everything he needs to function. So I kept my work with Dana for a couple of years. I went out to grad school. I moved from working with patients to generally healthy populations because I thought it was more interesting statistically to be able to compare people. I was always interested in the sounds of language. I just wanted to know everything there was about acoustics and speech. How do we manage to understand what I'm saying in Frankford Hall right now? And at some point, after 9 years of working with subjects and patients and all sorts of different fascinating people on how to study language, I switched over and realized I was interested in language and helping scientists harness what they knew about human language and also their brain power to use the art and science of communication within their work. And that's how I'm here today. Thank you all for being here.